Hi, this is Kiki. So today I'm gonna present two articles. The first one is Spectacle of the Others by Hall, and the second one is Watching Race by Herman Gray. So their articles are mainly talking about representation, and by using their example of black people. So Hall's articles are more like talking about the difference and how difference matters um, in understanding representation. And in Herman Gray's articles, she talks more about the representation of Black people and Black culture in TV culture, in and on the TV program or any other medium. So the first key term that I want to mention is meta message, which is the meaning of a representation that are underneath the literal meaning. And since representation has no meaning and they have no reference to its own, unlike simulation, and a representation can be an image, an object, or a sentence. And our understanding or the definition of this representation are pretty much depend on the content and difference, and the difference that we notice creates a meaning. We will have our preferred meaning, uh, and the representation has a role of shaping our understanding. And the second term that are mentioned in articles is intertextualization, which is a process of understanding a certain representation by referring to some other similar text. Since images don't carry meaning or signifier on their own, so through the representation of difference and otherness in a certain context, we kind of collect the meaning of them, uh, or say collect the accumulation of meaning across different texts. For example, when we are watching a movie, we would know the movie characters will be soon in danger when there is some dramatic and undiegetic sound effect in the background that would that are only be heard by um, the audience, while the movie actors they don't know the sound effect. And because other movies use a similar approach to predict a character's fate, that's why we think the sound effect um, means something here, and there's something gonna happen, and that this whole practice um, is the process of intertextualization. It helps us to understand this sound effect as a representation. And next, why difference matters. Um, it is pretty much the main body of Hall's articles, and she talked about the reason why difference matters in 4 levels. But in my presentation, I'm gonna just talk about 3 of them, which is linguistics, anthropological, and psychoanalytical. For the first one, linguistics, it's pretty obvious that the difference in language is essential to meaning, because for the same thing that that might mean for the same word, it might mean difference in different language setting. Also, in a dialogue, when we are communicating with somebody else, we will encode what we want to say into a sentence, but as for the receiver, they will decode the sentence in their own way. And there must be a difference between our understandings, and the difference is a really critical measurement for how effective this communication is. Second, she talked about difference at an anthropological level by using the example of classification, which always required us to establish a clear difference between things in order to classify them, which might also cause some negative consequences, such as the racial issues. For example, in the article the author used um, an a British black athlete who won the Olympic race. But people always question his racial identity because he's black, but he claimed that he is a British. But he was pretty much raised in the UK. But people always assume that British should be white, which is also a social stereotype for British. However, he's black. So what are we gonna classify, categorize him, and which racial group he should be put in? So here's the problematic things. So I'm gonna talk more about classification. There's a quote from the article that classification is stable cultures. Stable culture requires things to stay in their appointed place. Symbolic boundaries keep the category pure, giving culture their unique meaning and identification. Matter out of place disturb the purity of culture, which is unwanted. And the process of getting rid of the matter out of place is called purification. For example, people will be against the invader, foreigners, and aliens. And we will also want to minimize the environmental pollution because we think the artificial pollution is not part of the nature. Last, she also discussed the difference at a analytical level by using Freud's Oedipus complex, which believe children build sexual identifications through altering their mother's primary sexual characters, which is female don't have penis, with the fear of being punished and castration. The child has no sense of itself as a subject separate from its mother's until it sees itself in a mirror, or as if mirrored in a way it is looked at by his mother. So by noticing the difference between the child itself and its mother's, it can establish their own sexual identification. So here's my questions. The first one is, when we read the article Watching Race and the movie clip, we notice the lack of representation of black people. Even if the TV program integrated black people, their representation are more likely to be stereotyped in a negative way. Do you think that stereotypes are produced by representation? If not, why? And the second question is, we celebrate the diversity, but at the same time, we try to purify and stabilize the culture by getting rid of the matter out of place. In this case, do you think the diversity or globalization we are chasing for nowadays is global unification, in fact reducing the diversity or not? So here's my presentation for today. Thank you.